Yeah, so thank you very much. Yes, my talk will be about a journey from the Internet of the Fields, which actually is already establishing, to the Internet of Plants, which we believe will come soon. Just in a nutshell, the Bosch startup Deepfield Robotics, it was established in May 2014 as a child of corporate research. We have a mission, which is to create new Bosch business, but in a field which is currently not existing, which means we are running an explorative market development. Secondly, we have a vision, namely to bring innovative technologies to agriculture and to enable a more sustainable farming. And we have also two product families. One is on connectivity solutions, which enable farmers to make better decisions. And the second is robotic systems in agriculture to take over, to automate agricultural processes, or even to allow new processes in agriculture which currently are not feasible. So the basic idea of the Internet of the Fields is simple. It's about collecting microclimate data to combine this, to augment this with weather forecasts, with models, and so forth, in order to enable farmers to make better decisions and or to close feedback loops. With the last sentence, I mean that it's nice to collect data, but there is no benefit if you cannot use it to act or to react. So in the case of an irrigation system, what one would, for instance, open or close valves with respect to the soil condition or the plant condition. And our first product in this field is for asparagus growers. So I'm referring to the white asparagus, which is very important in Germany. So actually it's the most important vegetable. It's grown on 25,000 hectares. And the revenue per hectare is about 30,000 euros, so it's a high-value crop. And the asparagus itself, it's grown in a ridge, so it's growing in a dam in the soil. The higher the temperature, the better the growth, but on the other hand, also the temperature difference in the different depths needs to be considered in order to ensure a high quality. So if it's very hot on the top, but it's cold on the bottom, the asparagus may get hollow, which has the same taste, but you cannot sell it. To control the temperature, the farmers making use of a foil or tunnels. Now, the foil typically has a white side and a black side. With the white side, you can reflect the sunlight. With the black side, you can absorb the sunlight and you can regulate the temperature in the ridge. But you need to know how the temperature looks like. And our idea is very simple. We measure the temperature in the ridge in different depths. We have a connectivity solution which collects the data, transfers the data to the Bosch cloud. On the cloud, we make use of weather forecasts, we have models, we have the past values, and we can then give a recommendation to the farmer which site to use the next day in order to improve the quality and the harvest. And yeah, so this was the first product, but there will be some others launched next year for strawberries, for vegetable underfoil, for beehive monitoring, and so forth. So this was the Internet of the Fields, but the next logical step would be to get to the Internet of the plants. So imagine you have the properties, the state of each individual plant. It is then possible to treat it individually. So this is the basic idea. So needless to say that this will not come overnight, and it's also not reasonable for all crops, but we see here some early adopters in this field, and I will give you one example. Later on, it is for seed breeding or the seed production. So somewhat related also to the talk we had before. So for those who are not familiar with the seed breeding process, the seed producers, they need to run field trials in order. So this is referring to the other presentation. This was on the right-hand side, so traditional seed breeding. So they have this field trials in order to select the right lines for crossing or in order to optimize their production processes. And on these fields, you have many plots, so smaller patches with let's say 90 or 100 plants, and then an expert needs to rate to assess the quality of this plants. And you can imagine this is a very tedious task, and is also rather subjective, because in the morning you would rate differently than in the afternoon, another person will do it differently, etc. And it's also a huge number game. So the more plots you have, the better is then the evaluation and also the result. And just to give you a figure, only in France there are 10 million of such plots for field trials. We consider this as a prime example for the use of robotic systems, because they can do this job much more objectively with an unknown precision and quality. So to be more concrete, let's take a look at the sugar beet. And two typical traits here are, one is the rate of germination. So the seed breeder would like to guarantee to the farmer a high germination rate, at best 100%. And the second trait is the leaf area. Now, the bigger the leaf area, the more photosynthesis, the more sugar is in the sugar beet. So generally the rule applies, the more, the higher, the better, but also here the homogeneity needs to be considered. So germination should happen at once, within 1 day. And also the growth should happen homogeneously in order to make the harvests more efficient. So for the first task, the rate of germination, you need to count plants. Sounds simple, but actually it's not that simple, because counting means, first of all, to detect plants, and secondly, to distinguish between the plant and the weeds. And we can do this with our robotic system for the individual plant. So each plant on the field has a name and has an address, and we can return to this plant every time and measure its properties and check its state. And this altogether creates a kind of a patient record for the single plant, which I will show you later. And in order to get the leaf area, we reconstruct the plant in 3D. So in the beginning, 2D analysis would be sufficient. But in a 4-leaf stage, 6-leaf stage, when the plant has grown, it may have different shapes, and then you need to reconstruct in 3D in order to get the correct leaf area. So this function we have developed last year, so pre-developed by means of our robotic system BonnyRob, which is a multi-purpose robotic platform. It's, so you see there are 3 generations. And the BonnyRob itself has 4 driven wheels. Each wheel is steerable by 360 degrees, which makes the platform omnidirectional. So it can move, it can accomplish any maneuver you may imagine in the plane. So driving sidewards while keeping the orientation, for instance. And furthermore, we can also adjust the track width from 1 meter to 2 meters by the arms which we can move of the robot. And this allows to adapt to the circumstances on the field. It can navigate autonomously on the field while it is carrying an application module, a tool. So whereas a tractor is pulling its implement, the BonnyRob carries its tool inside the cabin. And you see here some examples of application modules which were developed. So some precision spraying, making use of a camera in the loop, or a phenotyping application module. So this is a light curtain module which measures the biomass, penadrometer module for measuring the soil compaction. So this allows them to create a compaction map of the field, or a weeding module without making use of herbicides. It's actually a stamp. It smashes the weed and kills the weed really mechanically. Okay, and to show how this has been accomplished, now we have some sound. So how we have developed this system, we use the BonnyRob, and actually we have also approval to run it on the street by remote control. Now our test field is just 200 meters from the office. The system was assembled with the sensoric system, So we have been to the field, and on the field we then switch to autonomous mode, and we run over our sugar beet row, while the robot was carrying its sensors. So there's one multispectral camera sensor to detect plants and to classify plants, to distinguish between the plant and the weeds. And then there is a time-of-flight camera for the reconstruction of the plant in 3D. And last year we had also to ensure that our 3D reconstruction is correct. And now see here the point cloud. From this point cloud, we create a mesh and we derive the leaf area. And we have picked also some leaves last year and put them on the scanner in order to check whether the measurement is okay. Okay, I already mentioned that we need to distinguish between the plant and the weeds, and for this purpose machine learning techniques are used, or software which is taught to distinguish between these classes, and it's also learning over time. The classification rate is about 80%, which is not fantastic, but is a good value, but it's not sufficient for our task, because our need here is 100% accuracy. But since we are regularly on the field, maybe every day, we update the map of the plants and the weeds, and once in time we are sure about the class of the plant, we can reconstruct its history. So we can correct, because we have all the data, and that's how we achieve 100% accuracy. I can also show you this in a short video. So you see here also how the map is created on the right-hand side. Here the green points indicate the plant, and the red dots the weeds. And this is updated then over time. At the end, it's 100% correct. And you will see also the meshed figure of a plant. So this is for the 3D reconstruction. Okay, and we call it 4D scan because we have 3D of each plant, and the fourth dimension is the time. So the development of each plant over time. So this is 4D, and here it is depicted for three plants in their patient record. So this year in April, May, we have run a field trial campaign at the sites of Strube. Strube is a German seed breeder company. They are mainly engaged in production of sugar beet. And so this field trial was accomplished by one single person. So this person has brought the robot by means of a trailer to the field. He was able then to unload the robot from the trailer and run the experiments. And as you can see here, this is not the Bonnie Rob anymore. So we took technology bits developed by in the Bonnie Rob and put into a dedicated platform, which is less complex, less expensive. It has only two driven wheels. It's a differential drive system. So in this field trials, we had 100 plots and 100 plants on each plot, so altogether 10,000 of plants. And the measurement took about 1 hour. So throughput of the system is 10,000 plants per hour. You see here also the agenda or the schedule of this campaign. So sowing happened on April the 5th. And then we start the measurements. F1 stands for plant counting and for leaf area estimation by means of 2D, and F2 when we started to reconstruct in 3D. So let me give you also some first results. We have compared the counting of the emerging plants with a human. So there was a human expert from the company Strube doing the same job, and this is depicted here on the left-hand side. The dark pink curve is the result of the robot, and the bright pink curve is the human expert. And whereas there's a both curves coincide in the middle part. There is a deviation at the beginning and the end, and there's good reason for this. So deviation in the beginning is because we have defined a plant to be a plant as soon as it exceeds 0.1 square centimeters. Before a plant can be seen, can be recognized, but we have not considered as a plant, so that's why we count less. But at the end, we count more. So actually, the robot counted 94% of emerging plants, whereas the human was at 87. So here there is a deviation of 7%, which is rather significant. But there's also a good answer to this, because a human can only count what is currently on the field. So on the one day, he may count 70, on the next day 80, but it's not necessarily true that there are 10 new emerging plants. There could be also 12, and 2 died because of frost or were eaten by a rabbit or by a snail, etc. But we count based on the individual plants, so we know exactly what happened, and that's why we have counted here more. So this was the true emerging rate. And we can then also check the data. What was the reason for the plants to die? So we get complete new insights into such dependencies between weather conditions, application of herbicide, application of other treatments to the single plants. And yeah, so here you see the evolution of three plants, and the one in the middle actually disappeared, and this was due to frost, which we could check then in the data. So before I would like to, before I show you this patient record, let me summarize as follows. Digitalization will become ubiquitous in the era of smart agriculture, from the Internet of the fields to the Internet of the plants. I'm not the agricultural expert, but I'm very much convinced that such technologies will enable complete new insights into dependencies and processes. So as mentioned before, it's possible to identify the impacts of herbicides to the plants, but also to the weeds. So this was also interesting. In our experiments, we have seen that some sugar beets died of frost, or the growth was stopped, but this was not true for the weeds. They were still growing, so they were more resistant. You can also compare different seeds and so forth. I would like also to thank my excellent team for making this possible. And I would like now to show you the patient record. So here we can select one measurement. So this is actually one plot, and here the green dots indicate the sugar beets and the brown dots the wheat. And we can now select a single plant and see here, for instance, how the leaf area developed over time. And we have also all the pictures from this plant. So here starting very small. So this was on April 18th with a leaf area of 0.18 square centimeters. It was then growing. I can show you also a plot from last year where we had also the F2 measurements. Go here to the details and see here how the plant was growing, 2-leaf stage, 4-leaf stage, and so further. We can reload it, and we have also the 3D reconstructed plant. We can even take a look from the other side, but we do not see anything. Unfortunately, there is no sensor to look into the soil, but would be a good next step to have also such a system. Yeah, so this was my talk, and I'm happy to answer later your questions.